Hello, and welcome to the Thyroid Warrior podcast. I'm Ebony, and I'm here as your wellness facilitator. I'm going to be sharing my experiences in managing Hashimoto's disease, and I really hope that it'll help you on your personal journey. Keep in mind, however, this does not substitute as medical advice. It is only for your information and motivational purposes only. Now, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Thyroid Warrior podcast. I'm very excited to have a very special guest on today, Adam from Near Country Provisions. It is I'll call it a delivery service because once it kind of started off with meats in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, but they are expanding to some amazing things. And more recently, I just got some eggs delivered the last time and they were fantastic. But I am not going to spill all of the wonderful, amazing things about Near Country Provisions. I will let Adam share that. So welcome, Adam. Thank you so much for coming on and just sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Ebony. I really appreciate it.
Wonderful. So we're just going to dive right in. And I'm so curious because a lot of times we hear about how Hashimoto's disease in particular is often diagnosed in women more so than men, but you have Hashimoto's disease, and we are so interested to hear about your personal experience and how you were diagnosed and what happened and all that fun stuff. So tell us about you and your journey.
Okay. Yeah. The dude with Hashimoto's. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm actually curious how much my own experience with diagnosis is similar to your patients and followers and other folks in the audience. But it started out by, as part of my regular physical, doctor turning up a high TSH level in my blood work and saying simply, well, so like you got this and it's probably going to get worse and worse as you get older. And at some point you're going to need to start taking meds and that's it. And we'll keep monitoring it and we'll tell you, at the point you which you need to take medicine. So no concept of root cause analysis, no attempt to solve the problem, just it's here. It's probably not a problem for you yet. It's going to become a problem. You'll take medicine for the rest of your life and that's it. I expect that's not an uncommon story.
Nope, that sounds about
right. And I didn't know any better at the time. And so for several years, I kind of went along like this. Mm-hmm. And a couple years later, though, I started to find myself surrounded with folks associated with functional medicine and sort of more sort of root cause approaches to medicine and health, including critically my sister-in-law. As I got involved with the woman who became my wife, I was introduced to my sister-in-law, and she thought that this was kind of weird, that my doctors weren't interested in solving the problem, but just noting the problem. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I started seeing a functional medicine doc. I was living in New York at the time. And that's the point at which I started to really understand what was going on, and to attempt to intervene and take action to, minimally improve conditions for myself and ideally find the root cause of what was going on and resolve it.
Nice. And it's funny because so many people have your exact same scenario, myself included, and it can be so frustrating and isolating, especially when you don't have that group of individuals that are like, something's not quite right here, or not even thinking like, oh, wait a minute. I'm going to be on a medication for the rest of my life. How do I feel about that?
Right. It's the norm, right? It's the norm, unfortunately. And so when you're delivered that message, it's kind of like, well, okay. unfortunately. Yeah. I should say also that at that time, and quite frankly, since as well, I've been fortunate that my symptoms have never been that severe. So there was no kind of burning issue to resolve. Again, I've been very fortunate in that respect. So it was very easy to say like, oh, okay, well, not a problem now. We'll check the blood levels at some point. We'll deal with it. But of course, I now regret those, that 3 or 4 year period where I did nothing, where I didn't know better and I did nothing.
Yeah. So when you knew better, for example, and you got to that point where you're like, you know what? I'm not really going to just kind of let things just go from that, day to day, or every year or every 6 months, we're going to check your levels, to basically implementing tools and strategies to really help yourself and to be able to thrive and like feel good for yourself. Like what made that shift?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it was being exposed to functional medicine and starting to work with a functional medicine practitioner who was interested in working with me to explore. Can we figure out what's triggering this autoimmune condition? If so, can we resolve it? And in any case, can we also work on things that help with the mild symptoms that I did have? And it's worth noting that in a sense, though I'm very glad to have started on the path of awareness and functional medicine and trying to get to the bottom of things, I have not managed to solve the problem, right? So between dietary intervention and supplements and all the things that we do, and which I continue to do, we never managed to forestall or reverse the condition. And in fact, I am now taking some of the very meds, which I was told I would have to take long ago. I hoped I would not have to take, but I have. So in a sense, it's been only a moderate success, but I still, endorse, this approach.
Yeah, and it's hard too, because I found that my doctor was wonderful when I initially found out about my diagnosis. And she's like, Ebony, you're so young. I don't really want to put you on this medication. Can we look at dietary changes? Can we look at all those things? And in my case, like my body was like shutting down. So it was, I think in like 6 weeks when I went back, she was like, never mind. We actually need to get you on this medication sooner rather than later.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I also had vitamin D and B as in boy deficiencies, so much so that she looked at my labs and she was like, how are you functioning?
Oh my goodness.
And 20,000 units of vitamin D a week for about 6 months later, and vitamin B shots. I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to feel human. Oh, okay.
That's great.
And I've also noticed sometimes when people have Hashimoto's and or any thyroid condition for that matter, and you have to take the medication for it, it stinks because sometimes people are like, well, why are you taking the medication? Why are you doing that? And I don't think it's anything wrong with having to take it if that's what your body requires. Same thing with supplements.
Yeah.
But it's like we can all be friends, guys. I promise. I promise.
Yeah. Look, everybody is different, and we all need different things, different combinations of things, for sure. I think the key is just being aware of what's going on and deliberately choosing your path, and not making a choice, inadvertently making a choice by not making a choice, by just sort of pushing things off and avoiding it.
Yep. And with that being said, like, since everybody is different, we all have like different things that are going on, different career paths. Can you please talk to us more about near country provisions and how that came about,
Yeah.
because from a dietary perspective, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, there's a connection between this service that I started and my journey with my thyroid and Hashimoto's. So first, what is Near Country Provisions? Near Country Provisions is a farm to doorstep subscription service that makes it easy for people like you and me and our neighbors throughout the Mid Atlantic to access meat and fish that is nutrient dense and additive free. And in the case of the pasture raised meat, raised ethically, raised healthily and happily. Um, so there are very good health reasons, which we'll go into more. There are very good environmental reasons. There are very good reasons in terms of supporting local economy. Very good reasons with regard to animal welfare to be buying meat that is raised on local pastures by local farmers and fish that is wild caught locally. It can be difficult for people to access it. Not everybody has the time and energy and bandwidth to go to the local farm store or go to the farmer's market every weekend. And generally, we aim to make it much easier for our neighbors in our region to access conveniently, affordably, the type of meat and fish which is delicious and healthy, and we're doing it. And we have happy customers, and like of which you are one. And it's going well. And I'll be happy to sort of explain more about what we do. And I've got a special discount code for your followers to help them avail themselves of the service. But first, so the connection, as I was learning more about how to address and treat my Hashimoto's, of course, an anti-inflammatory diet and the nutrient-dense diet were keys. And so I learned at that point about the benefits of meat which is raised on pasture, beef that is 100% grass-fed, as you and I'm sure many of your listeners know, the macro and micronutrient profile and the fatty acid profile of meats that are raised that come from healthy animals that live naturally on pastures just doesn't compare. Compares extremely favorably to conventional industrial meat, which is not just deplorable from an animal welfare and environmental perspective, but also just not healthy. Go ahead.
No, I was like, yeah, all of the above.
You second that emotion.
I second that.
So ultimately, my background had been in startups of a variety of startups, mostly in the technology space. Mm-hmm. But when I moved to the DMV from New York and was pretty dissatisfied with the options I had to put good, healthy, clean food on the table for me and my family, it just sort of clicked that I had to do this. I had to launch the service that my family needed, that my thyroid needed, and that I was sure my neighbors and my community could benefit from. Mm-hmm. And that's why I got Near Country Provisions off the ground in 2020, and have been growing it ever since.
Yes, I have to say, and yes, I know I'm biased, but as someone that is always doing a cost comparison from a food perspective, like how can I get healthy food that works for me, that is safe and nutrient dense, as you said, but also something that works for me, has always been a challenge. And to your point, there are those days where on top of not really having a lot of energy to start with. I know it's very deceiving when people talk to me. They're like, "What? You lack energy? How?"
Yeah, that's a surprise.
Yeah, it's so funny because I'm like, I don't want to go to the grocery store today. And when I found you all, I was literally jumping for joy. I was like, okay, let's figure this out. What's going on here? And I was looking for a lot of different places, but it really just worked out. And I can't even
Yeah,
remember now how I found you all. I really think it was like searching like meat
yeah,
subscription
yeah,
companies like
yeah,
grass fed, like I don't remember,
yeah.
but it's been such a big difference. And let's see, what month is this? This is July. So
Yes.
normally I get my subscription, the middle of the month is delivered.
Yeah.
But I was traveling a lot this month for the first time, and I came home from visiting my parents, and I was like, "Oh, I'll just take some meat out the freezer and everything will be fine." And I was like,
Mhm,
"Wait, I skipped this month. Crap."
mhm.
I was so sad. And I send my uncle pictures and my dad pictures of like what I cook, and like my dad's like, "Oh my gosh, look at that marbling in that meat. Like that's wonderful." And I was like, I can't skip August because that would be horrible. But I feel better, and just knowing how to cook it, because grass-fed beef is very different from a preparation perspective. And I learned that the hard way the first couple of
Mhm.
deliveries. And I was like, yep, yep, noted, figured this out. And even from the perspective of the fish, and having fresh mackerel tastes so different.
Mhm. Mhm.
Fresh versus what I grew up on. So thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm so glad. And look, like one doesn't have to be hypothyroid and have the symptoms of hypothyroidism to just have a busy life and not always
Yeah.
have time to go to the grocery store. And so, we try to make it really easy for people. We deliver the meat to your doorstep. It arrives in insulated bag with dry ice. You don't have to be there exactly when it arrives. And when you come home from work or whatever, it's there waiting for you. You bring it in the house, and you're good to go. And of course, you can adjust the amount that you want. For a
Mhm.
small household, it might only be a couple pounds a month. And for a larger household, it might be a lot more. And you get to choose your meat mix, and you get to make requests of us, which we're almost always able to accommodate.
It's
So
so fun.
um, I'm glad. I'm really glad. And I'm
Like,
glad you have fun with the cooking,
I
and it's
do.
it's always a good sign when people like to take pictures and share them.
Uh-huh.
That's really rewarding for us too.
Uh-huh. And I definitely have to start sharing more, but sometimes I'm like, oh, that was so good. Oops, I forgot to take a picture.
And it's gone.
Yep, it's done. But I think even just outside of that perspective, when you think about everyone's lives in our busy lifestyles, and or trying to manage a household, like you have a family and you have so many things going on, like do you have those days where you're just like, you know what, I'm tired, or I just don't feel well, and what how do you work through those?
um yeah, I mean, again, like I'm fortunate that my symptoms have been mild. However, yeah, like in the dead of winter, you know cold sensitivity, which I do have, is awful. And honestly, Ebony, actually, in working day to day with near country provisions, where we're storing all the meat in a big walk-in freezer we have before we allocate it out to our customers. So going into my freezer with my cold sensitivity is a
Ooh, ooh.
is difficult. And there, I guess my answer is, like, I leverage technology. So I have mittens and socks with battery packs and stuff, and I find that that's a real win for those of us who get cold extremities. There are also another symptom, which again is mild but is a bit of a pain, is lots of dry skin in the cold months, and it gets shredded and nasty and painful. And I guess I don't have a great answer for combating that, other than perseverance and a good moisturizer. But I guess I try to lean into the things which work for me, and I get joy out of. And so for me, it actually, a lot of it comes back to having learned to eat anti-inflammatory and nutrient dense. Like, I love it, and I get a lot of joy out of cooking and eating the kind of food which I'm now providing for others as well. So I guess if I have a takeaway or advice, it's sort of lean into the aspects of your lifestyle changes that you really love.
Ooh, I'm very happy you said that, because what I see, which is often very challenging to describe to people, they're like, so what do you do exactly? I'm like, a lot of things. But even from like a personal training and nutrition coaching perspective, people have so much to look at and so much to consume, and we're constantly bombarded by all the things, and people are like, what do I do? Like, there's so many choices to make, especially from that lifestyle perspective. And I always remind people that you have to do what's easy and sustainable for you. And to your point about finding joy in those things, like, that's what's so important. And I told my sister the other day, I said, if, for example, she was like, well, I shouldn't eat that much. Like, I should lower my calories. And I was like, if you want to lose weight, you actually will need to eat more, especially as we're starting to get you moving and you're exercising. You can't starve yourself. We're not hibernating.
Right.
So
Right.
how do we work on changing that mindset and making an approach for food fun for you and fun for my nieces? Because she might be a chef. I don't know. She loves either a chef or a scientist. I can't figure it out just yet. But she loves to eat, and it is such a joy watching her. And I'm going on a tangent slightly because she discovered oysters not too long ago. And I was very upset about it, not because she enjoyed the oysters, but because I had less to eat. So I was very upset, and my dad was very tickled by it.
It's zero sum in the near term, but it's positive sum in the long term, because now you have another oyster eating buddy, and you'll have more oysters in your life.
Exactly. So we have a lot of things to explore in New England. So that definitely was a very good thing for you to point out. And I think too, and this is one of my favorite questions to ask people, is if you could choose to be any superhero, who would you be and why?
Oh, wow.
I mean, I had to throw a surprise in there somehow.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, so like, the cliche answer, or a cliche answer, is Batman, because he's a real guy who doesn't have the superpowers he does, right? He has to use normal human powers to do amazing things, right? But that's less fun. That's less fun. I don't know. I mean, Superman being able to change time and space, and maybe that's what it is. Make the Earth rotate backwards and go back in time and fix things. That's a pretty That'd be pretty powerful. I'm sure there's unintended consequences, but that seems like a pretty powerful thing to be able to do.
Yes, I love it.
I'd probably, you know what I do? What I do is I'd go back to that kind of 4-year period where I wasn't doing anything about my thyroid, and do something about it.
Yes. That's definitely the fun part. But tell us more about the awesome things that you are doing. How can we get in touch with you and follow you and sign up and do all the things? Like, tell us all that fun stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So interested folks should go to our website. It is nearcountry.com, 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 not nearcountry.com, as a vendor of mine but it accidentally referred to us by not mere country, not just country, but near country, NEAR, nearcountry.com. They can also email me if they have questions, adam@nearcountry.com, or once they go to the website, we have a chat box. There's plenty of ways to get in touch with us. And I would encourage your followers to just kind of cruise around the website, check it out. We've got educational content about how our service works. And then, of course, you can shop for all the different provisions, offerings. You choose the mix of meats that you want. Are you a chicken and fish person? Are you a grass-fed beef and pork person? Are you all of the above? Are you gonna supplement with grass-fed dairy, grass-fed cheese, pasture-raised eggs? You can decide all these things. Our team will help you decide. And your followers should use code Ebony to receive a welcome bundle with their first provisions, which is worth $30. $30 of free stuff just for listening to this podcast and following you and and trying us out. Also, it's worth pointing out, like, yes, this is a subscription service, which makes a lot of people go, oh man, another subscription service. I got to give you my credit card. You're going to try to lock me in. You do have to give us your credit card. We're not going to lock you in. You can cancel anytime. If you don't like it after your first delivery, you can cancel. If you decide before your first delivery, you change your mind, you can cancel. Don't worry about it. You get your money back. Nobody's trying to lock you into something you don't want. We want to make a happy customer out of you. In terms of cool new stuff we're doing, we're always looking to source new cuts and categories of healthy proteins, and we get a lot of feedback from our customers, and that leads us in new directions. So it was actually very recently that we launched cheese. We're very excited about that. We've got 100% grass-fed cow cheese and also a sheep cheese, which is really nice. And there will be new stuff in the works as we go along. We're always bringing on new fish species as we get new landings of fish that run through our region. We're also increasingly, if any of your listeners are peers or professional peers of yours, we're actually working very hard to expand our partnership offerings for health coaches, nutritionists, because we know that our message and our service is very interesting to you folks and potentially very valuable to your patients and clients. So if any of you listening would like information on partnering with us to spread the word to your patients and clients, getting them discounts to try the service, that's something we're really interested in as well. So we can all build this community of healthy eaters.
Yes. Oh, that's so wonderful.
I'm glad you're into it.
Told a couple people about you. I have a few meetings actually coming up where I'm like, ooh, let me send you all this. So it's definitely very, very exciting. But Adam, I just want to say thank you so much for coming onto the show today. I am so excited for folks just to be able to experience what you all have to offer. And I actually just saw our what's upcoming email. So I'm definitely going to look at that tonight.
Yeah, don't skip August.
No.
Don't skip it.
I am not. I learned my lesson for July. But yes, thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Ebony. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thyroid warriors, get out there and take things one step at a time. Remember, reflect on your triumphs, know that you are doing your best, and do what you need to do in order to be well. I would absolutely love it if you subscribe to this podcast and share this episode with a friend. And don't forget, leave me a review. I read those and try very hard to improve the show based upon your feedback. So I'd love to hear from you. And with that, be happy, be whole, and be well. Take care.